The Democrats are, once again, not just a party of violence, but also of stolen valor. No, I'm not talking about Tampon Tim, who has seen less combat than Donald Trump. Welcome to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me is Barrett McNabb. Let's talk about it.
So the Maryland governor, a Democrat darling called Wes Moore, calls it an honest mistake that he regrets not correcting. But what's this honest mistake that he's talking about? He only coughed up after getting caught in a lie after campaigning and winning on it. He claimed to be a Bronze Star recipient. Now, this really was interesting because in 2006, in a application to do a White House fellowship, which is extremely, obviously, very prestigious, he claimed to have been awarded a Bronze Star medal for his service in Afghanistan. And it really is just this 2 years after this campaign controversy, New York Times published, the story, and it's now come out. Now, here's the biggest thing. Wes Moore was a military intelligence officer that was in the reserves, called to active duty, and was attached to the 82nd Airborne Division. And supposedly, according to him, he was a top 1% officer, and therefore the deputy brigade commander put him in for a Bronze Star award. However, it was never processed. It was never awarded. Now, we don't know if it was downgraded, which awards get downgraded all the time. But here is an issue where, having and saying something on your resume and not actually backing it up with actual awards, it basically comes down to stolen valor. The thing that I think he's trying to say is that, it was an honest mistake. But again, when you don't have something and you fill it out. Now, he says he was encouraged. He was encouraged by this deputy brigade commander. Go ahead and throw it on there. We've put you in for it, and you'll eventually have it, and you need to wear it. When you're in the White House and things like that. But being put in for an award, again, it's very, very clear. Being put in for an award does not mean you have been awarded that medal.
Yeah, like everything else in the military, it has to process. And, of course, there's the classic saying, don't count your chickens before the eggs hatch.
Yeah.
Especially on the national stage, people.
Yeah, exactly. So let me give you kind of an example of how an award would work, right? So when I was a military advisor in Afghanistan, there was an ambush that occurred, and 40 Afghan soldiers stopped in a kill zone for an ambush on a road, and 16 of the 40 were killed in the very first volley of automatic rifle fire, and they were pinned down, and soldiers were dying by the minute. And we got alerted that one of our platoons that we were embedded with, it was 16 Americans embedded in a Afghanistan Kandak, which is a battalion equivalent, so 650 Afghan soldiers. And we got they went on their own patrol. They didn't take a military advisor with them, so communications were a little rough. But we got the word that they were pinned down, and that we had 16 KA and multiple wounded. So we launched with the rest of the battalion. I did a quick con-op and a quick maneuver action plan and op order. And as we got to the road, the battalion deployed into a wadi system, and a wadi is kind of like a creek bed, right? So it doesn't have any water in it, but it's like a trench system, or if you're in Kentucky and you go into a creek that's been dried up, that's what it basically is. And nighttime was starting to come down, and the Afghan soldiers didn't have any night vision goggles, and so what I asked the battalion commander, the Kandak commander, to pull everybody back and I volunteered to move forward with 3 Americans. I was one of the Americans, so 2 other Americans in an up-armored Humvee and 2 interpreters, and made the decision to move forward of the Kandak. So it was 3 Americans, 2 translators, forward of the 650-man Afghan Kandak. So it was a master sergeant who was driving. It was a captain who was in the turret of the 240 machine gun gunner's hatch, and then I was in the commander's TC seat, guiding where we needed to go. At the time, I was the second in command of the military task force of military advisors. I was the executive officer, mentor, the operations officer, mentor, and the intelligence officer, mentor. So I was mentoring two majors and a captain, and I was a captain myself. So I moved forward, and we dismounted the 240 out of the turret, and we came under contact and returned fire on the remnants of the people that were doing the ambush. Now, one of the things that happened, again, we had such a small element that it was hard for us to press the attack. We were obviously using our night vision goggles in order to see the people, the enemy, the Taliban, and we were able to use our infrared lasers to mark the targets. Now, we had called in a troops in contact, or a TIC, and there was a Danish, I want to say it was an F-16 that was deployed. It could have been an F-15, but I think it was an F-16. Anyway, it dropped a JDAM. We gave the grid coordinates where the enemy were retrograding from through this Wadi system. And the Danish pilot loaded the coordinates into the JDAM and dropped it and missed, which that's not supposed to happen. So we said, look, you missed. You needed to do a repeat on this target. And this is how accurate JDAMs are. How accurate. Because he missed again, but he hit the exact same spot. So I mean, you look, you missed twice. Well, that means you probably inputted the coordinates incorrectly 2 times.
Can't blame the machine.
You can't blame the machine. It went exactly where you told it to go. So anyway, as we were under fire from the Taliban, we were illuminating the targets with our infrared lasers, and the Danish pilot actually was doing gun runs from their nose-mounted cannon into the Wadi system to suppress the enemy. Now, at the same time, a Special Forces A team was launched from a nearby fire base and came in, and they had some Afghan soldiers that were embedded with them as well. But it was a Green Beret A team led by a captain and had a warrant officer as second in command. And so they come in, and we had worked with them before. They were a cool team. I was cool with a lot of the members, but it was very interesting as they were trying to navigate through the trees with all of their vehicles. They were yelling at each other and spending a lot of time like, no, back up, and go left, go right. So I walked up to them because you could tell where they were just because of all the noise they were making. And I went up to the team leader and I said, good God, the quiet professionals you ain't. Now, the warrant officer looked very sheepish. That's their motto, the quiet professionals. And so, just to kind of give them a little bit of a ribbing that they were being so loud in trying to get into position. And so anyway, I explained where they were. And one of the 18 Bravos, or the weapons sergeant, was hip firing a 60mm mortar system into the direction. So I ran back to where we were at, our fighting position, and I noticed these mortars were not going into the Wadi system. They were actually impacting and being walked in on my position, on the Americans' position. And so I had to go over there again, yell at them like, you're He's about to fire on us, and it's not that way. It's that way that you need to be firing. And they're like, okay, got it. And so they went and did great, wonderful things. Now, when we came back, we got a bunch of high fives, and the three Americans, myself as the commander on the ground of the operation, the master sergeant that was the driver, and the captain who was the gunner in the turret of the Humvee with the M240 Bravo machine gun, all got put in for Army Commendation Medals with a V device, which means for valor. So Army Commendation for Valor. So ARCOM V. Okay. So anyway, we all got put in for the same award, and I got to see the form as it came up. My the commander of my military advisor unit was a major, and he's the one that put me in for the award. And my brigade commander, said, "Look, this was," and I'll put a screenshot of what the comments were right here. But it was, he maneuvering in the dark, under fire, took extreme guts, valor. The commander of the Regional Command South also said extreme guts, recommend award. So anyway, here's what happened. Out of the three people that were put in for an ARCOM with V device, only one of us got it. Only one of us got it, right? So the master sergeant was approved for an ARCOM V. He got it. Mine was downgraded from an ARCOM V to an ARCOM, right? So without valor. And also the captain who was the gunner, who was the most exposed, his was denied in its entirety. And so here we have three individuals that doing the same action and three different outcomes. One received the award as it was intended. One, it was downgraded, and one, it was denied in its entirety. So that's how fickle the award system is. Even though we all did the same thing at the same time in the same place under the same amount of danger, we had different outcomes. So again, for Wes Moore it got put in, so I might as well start claiming it. That dog don't hunt.
And he should know better. He claimed it was a mistake, but per Military Times in 2008 and 2010, in interviews on TV, he did not correct the host when they introduced him as a Bronze Star recipient. And when he was asked about it during the 2022 governor's race, he said, well, I didn't want to correct them on national television. Now, this makes me think about when your mom catches you in a lie and she kind of gives you the opportunity to fess up. And guess what? If you don't fess up, your punishment's twice as hard hitting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is one of those things that, as reports like this happen, it seems as though there's a lot of Democrats that this is really kind of happening to a lot. So, I mean, Tim Walz, who, falsely claimed that he retired as a command sergeant major, when in reality he retired as a master sergeant. So one rank down, right? And the White House campaign, Kamala's campaign website had to make that retraction that he achieved the rank of command sergeant major, and then did not reference what he actually retired at. But also he had the big controversy of weapons in war that he carried in war. And there's actually another video that has come out where he's talking about combat in Afghanistan, and he never deployed, right? So here we have, Wes Moore got his White House fellowship. He got, elected as the governor of Maryland, and he was not confronted. I take that back. He was not confronted. He was, as people were introducing him on late night TV and in news shows, talking about that he was a Bronze Star recipient. He had an opportunity to say, again, hey, just to let you know, I never was awarded that.
And if he had corrected them, it would have been like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, because you could have said, well, I was put in for one and I didn't get it. Now, because being put in for an award, that's an honor all on its own.
Yeah, that means someone in charge of you, or who was there to witness it, thought well enough of you to fill in some paperwork.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, he should have just corrected the record a long time ago. Correcting the record after the New York Times does a article about it is not the right time to say, oh, yep, you caught me, and now I'll come clean. Coming clean of your own accord is the honorable thing to do. But anyway, to Wes Moore out there, in case he wants to know, this is what Bronze Stars look like. And I happen to have two of them. I earned one in Iraq and one in Afghanistan for other actions other than the ARCOM V. But, someday maybe he'll get one, maybe he won't. But in the meantime, Wes, here's what they look like. So thank you for tuning in to Azimuth Podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks.